Good morning.
It's good to see everybody this morning, ladies and gentlemen. We're now in the hands of Ms. Lisa Lambert.
This is the pre-meeting of the Mobile City Council, Tuesday, July the 11th. We have approval of minutes from July 5th.
It's good.
Appeals, we have requests of waiver of the noise ordinance on August the 4th, Moffett Road, from 6 p.m. until 9 p.m. August 26th, from 8 a.m. until 12 a.m. in Mardi Gras Park. July 22nd, from 4 p.m. until 8 p.m. on Airport Boulevard.
Okay.
Public hearings today is a public hearing to declare the structure at 1005 Texas Street a public nuisance and order it demolished.
1 second. Councilman Carroll, Penn, and Gregory, y'all good with those appeals?
Yeah.
Okay. Carroll?
Yeah.
Okay.
On this public hearing about 1005 Texas Street. 1005 Texas Street is an extremely contributing building to the historic district and to Texas Street itself, even though it's in need of repair. I think the city's standard not to tear down a house or structure that is of this age and has this much relevance. Why are we asking to tear it down? Has the MHDC cleared this? Has the ARB cleared it? Where are we?
Just a brief history. We were here last September, and the council held it over for 60 days, and then it came back, and then it was held over another week. I don't think it ever came back up. There was some discussion that the property owner was looking to demolish or sell the property. Neither of those occurred. So municipal enforcement monitoring the building. It's continued to deteriorate the roof, exterior walls, and foundation. It's now beginning to lean to the east. The property to the east. So we have occupied property, which is not occupied at this particular moment. I understand it's being renovated, but our code does classify this once it starts collapsing, which it's beginning to do that, as an emergency. It has not done that yet. We're here before council to say, hey, we have a problem with the roof, exterior walls, and foundation. This is in a historic district. I understand is now, there's an application to the historic, and please, Christine with historic could give you a little bit more information. It went before the board, but it has not been approved yet. And there's not a demolition permit yet for the owner to demolish the structure. My position is that we should move forward because of the damage to this structure. It is failing. It's an unsafe structure. That we declare it. We also will have time, 60 days, on my behalf to serve utility letters, reach out to contractors for demolition, to give the property owner a chance to move forward with his goal to demolish this particular structure.
This will be the second property in 90 days that are of significant historic value to the city. It's unfortunately we lost 650 St. Michael Street, which was only one of two properties remaining in the entire city that was of that architectural style that we rushed to demo. There have been other houses in this city, one, may I note, 966 Seneca Street, that had collapsed with houses both to the right and left of them, which were saved and allowed to be saved by this city. So I don't understand why there's a preference for some and not for others, or there's a different standard for some and not for the same. If this administration remembers 966 Seneca, which is not even in a protected district, was allowed to collapse and then be restored with, I think, the Thorntons on one side and I can't remember the name of the family on the other side, both living there. This has an empty lot on one side and a adjacent property to the other. So it's contributing. I mean, why are we going to continue to tear them away?
I just go back to what I just stated before, the condition of the building and the condition of the previous buildings that you mentioned.
So one of the things that we want to explain to the council is it's just twofold. Think about the emergency action. It's different. It's a different statutory scheme, and you all, as the governing body, have to make that decision, and that's up to you all. All we can do is give you the information and ask you to go forward. And so something is in an emergency state and it looks to like it might either damage life or other property, we bring it before you all as an emergency. And that's what this is. And so you have to, think about that. Even though the other property is unoccupied, it could actually fall into it and damage it. And that's what we're seeking to prevent. And 650 St. Michael, different story. Remember, that came back to you all back and forth. We don't seek to have these conversations to tear down something that's historic just for the sake of. There has to be, something that's prevailing for us to come to you with it. Otherwise, we seek to go to the process. And then I also want to point out that you all, as the governing body, you all don't need MHDC approval. The owner would, but you all don't need that because you supersede the MHDC.
Is that even under the new ordinance that's in place?
Yes.
Which goes into effect July 14th?
Yes, you still supersede them as the governing body. That can't change by state.
Can this house be secured, David?
I do want to remind the council that the first action that the city did participate in approximately 4 years ago, and I don't remember the exact date,
4 years ago?
4 or 5, we secured it
Mhm.
with the intent that the owner was going to transfer the property to someone to restore it, and the owner never did. Instead, they paid the lien and did not repair the structure.
Who's the owner?
Mr. Mason. I do expect Mr. Mason to show up today at the council hearing.
Yeah, I didn't know that. If I wish I had known the owner 4 days ago. Okay, let's talk to him then, and let's see if we can't find a way to keep these types. If some of you are unaware of 1005 Texas Street, it is I would say a glorified shotgun small house, maybe 800 square feet, probably dates back to the 1800s. We don't have very many of those left in the type of neighborhood that it in lends itself to a different character and culture of response. And it deserves to be saved just like all the other houses that we're trying to save. So I may ask that we lay this over and let's dig in really hard and try to find a way to save it like we've done others that were in far worse shape than this one.
Madam Clerk.
Presentation of petitions and other communications to the council. Cassie Salva regarding animals being on chains. Bill Boswell, excuse me, regarding the Mobile Historic Preservation Ordinance and the homes on Conti Street. Thomas Mitchell, freedom of speech and rights as a citizen. Reggie Hill, Chapter 38 of the City Code. Teresa Bettis, the city's responsibility to ensure that residents have access to affordable housing.
I would like to ask the administration, if possible, that we could have someone present to address the concerns of the animals on chains and also the housing, affordable housing.
Ordinance is held over. 38030, ordinance to amend Chapter 38 of the Mobile City Code, Municipal Court. 88031, ordinance for a lease agreement between the City of Mobile and the Board of School Commissioners of Mobile County for certain property not now needed for public or municipal purposes. Resolutions held over. 08722, approved purchase order to University of South Alabama for EMT certification class. 08723, approved purchase order to 08723, 724, 725 are approving purchase orders to Southern Lighting and Traffic Systems for LED light, street light luminaries, for traffic signal controller cabinets. 08726, approved purchase order to Gray Bar Electric for decorative street light poles. 21727, authorized contract with J. Payne Organizations for fountain and site amenities improvements at Bienville Square. 60728, authorized settlement agreement and release of claims, Maharaj. Ordinance is being introduced. 64032, rezone property at the north side of Government Street, 140 feet east of South Ann Street from B1 and B2 to B2. This one we need to table. Consent resolutions being introduced. 27-729, designate election officers for the July 25th District 6 special election and possible runoff on August 22nd. 6730, 731, 732, 733, 734 are determining appropriations to Gulf Coast Ethnic and Heritage Jazz Festival Productions, Inc., opportunity for entertainers and performing arts, Gulf Coast Heritage Jazz Festival Productions, and P.L. Wilson Detachment of the Marine Corps League Incorporated, Project Thrive Foundation serve a public purpose and authorizing payment. 03742, appoint Cartledge Blackwell, Abby Davis, Katarina Echols, Stevens Howell, Carrie Marin, Stephen McNair, G. Cameron Pfeiffer Trailer, Baja Wilson, Jennifer Rosalis to the ARB board.
Questions?
Ms. Carroll?
The one under the new ordinance, the current sitting board members have the right to serve out their terms. I don't remember, I think the only entity that can abate those terms is the council itself. I don't remember the council declaring the board mute or removed it.
So we probably need to discuss that further because that's not our interpretation of it for two reasons. But I'd like to talk to you all about that more offline
All right.
rather than here.
All right, well, if we need to do that, then let's withhold unanimous consent today on appointment of the board members. I think the provision of the new ordinance for appointment of alternate members also, there's no provision in there for alternate members in case they're needed. So that if you don't have a quorum, then there's an alternate member that can be added. That's also not there. Also, subchapter 44, which allowed for there to be a separate board within the old Dolphin Way community, even though it hadn't been used, is still on the books, and it needs to be deleted also.
So that's set apart from what we're dealing with here today. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mr.
but
Carroll.
it's a separate board that still has the authority that this board does too. And even though it hadn't been used, I think that this council needs to dissolve it also so that everybody's working off the same sheet of music. This still allows for there to be a separate board within the historic society with this board being in place, which is right.
So I'll tell you this, until, if you all want to handle that issue, that's fine, but that's separate and apart from dealing with this issue. Mr. Carroll has every right to hold this over for a week. We can discuss what we need to do within the current ordinance and state law, which this list abides by. It follows it to the letter. And also want to point out that we have a meeting of the ARB on the 19th. And so if, we'll need to get these folks appointed by at least next week so we don't miss that meeting, because there are a couple of, as always, important factors that are going to be on that would probably raise some major eyebrows.
Yeah, one more thing. I didn't see or remember, and I went back over this because all of us were in this meeting trying to make sure we had things right. And this is just one thing that jumped up. There's nothing in there that gives cause for removal of a board member if the board member isn't showing up, if he doesn't do this. There's nothing in the ordinance that allows for the removal of a board member if needed. And I think that needs to be part of it also.
That was in there.
Didn't remember seeing it,
Yeah,
and I looked through it last night and didn't see it.
We'll probably need to look at it again.
Yeah, let's.
One thing, Council, on the alternates.
Yeah.
The ordinance has to follow the state statute. The state statute does not provide for alternates.
Is that the reason why that's not there?
Correct.
So-
Because if you had alternates and they're not following the state statute, and they were then allowed to vote, they were not properly appointed in conformance with the state statute. So there's no alternate in the ordinance that follows the state statute.
That's the same problem that we're having right now with alternates voting at every meeting that they're there.
I'm sorry, if you want alternate.
No, I'm saying that I kind of agree with your statement, Bruce, but we kind of have that problem right now with alternates voting at meetings where they shouldn't be voting.
Well, that's why this ordinance follows the state statute, and there are no alternates to vote.
So if there's no quorum at any of these meetings, then we just don't have a meeting.
You've got 9 members, quorum is 5.
Let's look at those other things either between now and 10:30. Linda, Bruce, maybe you, Jamie, and me and Ricardo, so we can make sure that this is all squashed and done.
Well, and y'all let me know too, because if you want to call this out, we need to,
The intent is not to kill it. The intent is to
Why
make
not?
sure that this is right, because I don't ever want to come back to it
I'm just
again.
saying, if you want to call it out and lay it over, I need to know at the meeting so that we
Okay.
can do it.
Madam Clerk?
4743 is declaring the structure on Texas Street a public nuisance and ordering it demolished. 58744, 58744 assessed cost for removal of weeds, repeat Weedling Group 61, 6740.
Mr. President,
Ms. Reynolds?
I'd like to withhold consent on 58,744 assessed and cost for removal of weeds.
And William, are you going to call out 4743 on Texas Street? You want to hold that one over as well?
Depends on Ms. Mason.
Oh, okay. Well,
David, are we sure that Mr. Mason's coming today?
No, it's my understanding he will be here, but there's no guarantee.
I'm gonna try to
Depends on
get
his
to him
state, yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to get to him before 10:30. I'll let you know.
6745, 746 are determining, approving award a special bonus to the Public Services Employee of the Month and to the Parks and Recreation Employee of the Month. 6747, 748 are determining appropriations to Opportunity for Entertainers and Performing Art. Boys and Girls Club of South Alabama serve a public purpose in improving payment. 27,759, authorized contract with Micaiah Beck for services as an election specialist for the District 6 special municipal election. CIP resolutions being introduced, 21,749, authorized contract with Kimley Horn and Associates for Airport Boulevard Signal Improvement Project, $116,514.
Mr. President,
Yes, sir.
is this to fix the switches?
Signal detection equipment, like, is that what you're talking about?
Yes. So when we do this, will the entire system be new as of 2014?
I'd have to, it's Jennifer in here, so I'd have to let her speak to the specifics.
This is specifically retiming the signal between the That detection in stock to repair, we're waiting on the parts to mount it with. That will finish out that process.
From Sage to Azalea, right? But this will, once we do this, you understand what my question is?
There's still more work to do.
It's been, since it's been over 8 years since we retiming it. So with the new timing plans, there's only multiple new timing plans. And then we have detection in stock, we're waiting on some parts with it to install the detection. That will complete that section as far as everything, like the detection will be new, everything else in the cabinet is already new.
Okay, so we won't, as far as controlling the lights between Sage and Azalea, we won't have any more equipment out there that's over 10 years old. Okay, thank you.
Madam Clerk?
Resolutions being introduced, 01735, authorized addendum to Next Gen Asset Management Software License Agreement, $153,013. 08736, approved purchase order to Sunbelt Fire for fire bunker gear and leather fire boots, $146,460. 21737, authorized contract with Morrow Water Technologies for cooling tower pump replacement at the Mobile Museum of Art, $16,674. 21738, authorized contract with Cone for elevator and escalator service and preventative maintenance at various city facilities, $361,836. 37,739, authorized amendment between the City of Mobile and the State of Alabama Department of Conservation and Natural Resources for existing grant state expenditure plan number 16. 47,740, assent to the vacation of a portion of an alley adjacent to 2411 Wilson Avenue. 50, oh, yeah, I'm sorry, this needs to be tabled. Yes. 5741, amend tax increment financing District 1. 08750, approve purchase order to Asplundh Tree Expert for Dolphin Street tree removals and stump grinding, $18,000. 08751, approve purchase order to Clyde Armory for M4 carbine rifles. Mobile Police Department, $88,817. 08752, approve purchase order to TRP Construction Group for road striping materials and services for Ocean Road, $29,820.13. 08753, approve purchase order to Game Time for playground equipment for Richardson Tricentennial Park, $574,804.72.
Mr. President,
Mr. Reynolds?
is this a CIP item? 08753? How can that be? I mean, what do you mean? This is a park. So what is capital and equipment? You said it came out of capital and equipment? It's under architecture and something else in the packet. It didn't come out of capital and equipment according to, on Novus. It says it's architectural engineering or something to that effect. I'm sorry. Okay. All right. So that came out as a non-CIP money. I mean, I guess I'm interested to know, how that could be. It's my understanding that, and this is no attack on Richardson Tricentennial Park, but we all have various parks in the city. How can we take $574,000, out of some other account and put it into this park for playground equipment when we routinely have discussions in our CIP meetings about what improvements we want to make out at our parks? And I can pull up recent history. We had people coming down speaking at city council meeting about Heroes Park, wanting major improvements at Heroes Park. The offer was never extended to go out and, put in $500,000 worth of playground equipment there. So I guess my question is that whose discretion is this tax money spent?
Let us go back and look and see, make sure it came out of the right source, and we'll come back.
Can I ask a question? What year was this allocation suggested? Is this a holdover from previous years?
Again, I need to go.
Yeah, because it may be from 2 years ago that we're just getting to this expenditure. And when I looked at it, it didn't look like it was something that was part of this planning system. So I just watched it and let it go. So it'd be, under this planning system in the current rules, it wouldn't be with well to be attacking it or to be even questioning the way that the money's spent. Especially, I mean, there in District 2, there are 22 parks. So I would take money from wherever it comes when I only get $300,000 a year to doggone service 22 parks. But this isn't in my district. It's in District 1, which is my colleague over here, and they deserve some of the same rights of protection when there's very limited money to go to parks coming out of capital, especially when members of the administration are helping us program that capital for multiple years. So when we only get $300,000 a year, sometimes it can be really hard, especially for a park like this. This park doesn't just serve District 1, it serves the entire community. Everyone uses it from West Mobile to whatever, and that's just like Gina with Municipal Park. So you got to look at it in that sense. It's just not a recreation center or a park where kids come up to the rec. It's totally different than that.
Mr. President.
Mr. Dave, then Mr. Penn.
Well, when we instituted the CIP, the, one of the agreements was that improvements to parks would be paid for out of the CIP. And I've devoted millions of dollars of CIP money to park improvements. And I think we need to, it either comes out of the CIP or it doesn't come out of the CIP. I mean, and I've made millions of dollars in improvements to parks like Matthews Park, which is used by people all over the county. So I think that we need to, it either needs to come out of the CIP or doesn't come out of the CIP.
Mr. Penn?
Thank you, Mr. President. I agree with my colleague, Mr. Carroll, is that this, I believe, going back looking at it, that it was prior. And this park is utilized not just in District 1, but is utilized for the whole city. Now, going forward, I understand what my colleague stated. If we're going to go that route, that's fine. But in prior past, we had utilized it in different aspects. And because this park is, of course, used not just by residents in District 1, but used by everywhere. And we got a lot of parks in District 1. And I think you got to think about that as well when you look at different districts that has the amount of parks that each district has. It's a challenge to try to complete projects with the CIP funds. But I believe these funds, and I'm sure they're going to look that information up for you, Councilman Reynolds, but I believe this was prior, some years ago, that was already allocated.
Again, just let us double check in here, because it was from our CIP manager once procurement. It could have been a simple error just in terms of the accounting code that they use, or it could have been a previous allocated amount. So let us just get the details and find out.
I appreciate that. But I do hear from time to time that we're not spending enough, in 1, 2, and 3. And, I mean, there's $3.5 million going to Bienville Square. There's, in District 2, there are millions and millions and millions of dollars that get put into the parks. And then, it's fine. I understand it's the downtown area and, there's more parks or whatever. But, here I am putting in millions of dollars, not only to a park like Mims Park, which is utilized by Murphy High School and all the various high schools around here. When it's a rainy day, they come and practice on the field. I mean, there's people pulling the resources out of the city from all over using these parks and facilities. And, District 4 ought to get a, fair slice of the pie. That's why the CIP was established, so that everyone could get their fair share in their areas. And I appreciate the administration allowing our discretion on where we want to spend our money. But every million that I have to put, or every $500,000 or $100,000 I have to put into a park, takes away from a drainage repair or a road resurfacing or whatever it is. It has implications. And if I had $574,000 going into a Mims Park, which I've already allocated another close to $1 million to finish that project out. If I had this $500,000, it'd go into a ditch somewhere, go into a resurfacing project.
Mr. President.
Mr. Carroll?
I somewhat agree with you, but I mean, when and some of you might get a little red in the face when I say this, when the city has a surplus of tens of millions and at one point $115 million, it's up to this council to reallocate and restructure the budget during budget time. So if there's additional money that's needed in the CIP, then the time to do that is during the budget time. And if each district needs additional funding for parks, then this council should take the initiative and reallocate some of those excess expenditures during the budget process. In my recollection, in my recall of municipal funds, there's no such thing as a reserve. Or a surplus. It's just unbudgeted money. So if we need to put more money into resources, then I suggest that during budget time, then we do that. And in that way, we can alleviate ourselves of some of these issues. It's extremely unfortunate that each district with our $3 million only gets to put $300,000 a year into parks.
You can put as much
Well,
as you
it's unfortunate that we only have $3 million
Mr. Carroll,
that we can allocate.
Mr. Carroll, Chief Barber.
Hopefully we can put it to bed. This is District One's CIP money. It's not surplus.
Was it from years ago,
From
Jimmy?
where was it from?
Like a couple of years ago?
2023.
Okay.
So Mr. President.
Was that money bought forward too? Was some of that bought forward?
Mr. President, if we'll just move 08753 to join Councilman Dave's item over here in the CIP resolutions being introduced. So 21749.
Madam Clerk.
37754, authorized temporary site license between the city and New Cellular Wireless for the purpose of installing a cell facility at the cruise terminal. Call for public hearings, 41755, call for public hearing to rezone property located at the north side of Government Street, 140 feet east of South Ann Street from B1 and B2 to B2, scheduled August 15th. 41756, call for public hearing to rezone property located at the southwest corner of Monday Street and St. Meter Street, extending to the northwest corner of Hercules Street and Monday Street from R2 and to R3, scheduled August 15th. 41757, call for public hearing to consider the application of the Friends of African American Heritage Trail, Inc. to operate a shuttle service scheduled for July 24th. 41758, call for public hearing to assent to the vacation of a portion of alley adjacent to 2411 Wilson Avenue, scheduled August 15th. Announcements.
Do we have anything that, any agenda item to add?
Mr. President, first of all, Mike, do we need to recall the previous intergovernmental agreement between the Mobile County Public School System and the city of Mobile?
I don't think it's absolutely necessary, Councilman Carroll. I don't think it would be a bad idea since, as I understand it, there is a new draft intergovernmental agreement going around. And so if the council would be willing to do that by consent, it can't strictly be recalled. It would have to be repealed.
So do we have to repeal that agreement?
By passing a new one, I would think you are implicitly repealing the old one, but let's hear what Ricardo has to say.
What he said.
Okay,
So-
so we do need to repeal that.
No. You will. So if you adopt the new one, you will explicitly repeal the old one. And so what Councilman Carroll's talking about is the document we sent with the school board's amendments. As we mentioned before, with the intergovernmental agreement, there were probably going to be some amendments, and if they were substantial, we would have to come back to you. We're at that point now. School board on last Friday, we got the last of their changes. Those changes have been incorporated into the agreement that I emailed to you all last night and to the clerk's office, along with the incorporation of the document, incorporated into the document some of the changes that you all had discussed before voting on the previous document. So Mr. Linder is correct. If you all adopt this one with the school board changes, you will explicitly repeal the old one, which has not been executed. And we're at a standstill right now. Just want to mention to everybody, we're at a standstill. So time is of the essence.
I still have one question. I don't mind, CJ, adding this if we have 3 votes to add it to the agenda today, with the corrections of seating, with the corrections of right of reentry, with the corrections of need of bowl games, also with the correction the school board asked for, with the right of, I should say, income or proceeds from rentals to the facility, into the various other little things that I saw with the dating of the $9.2 million and that correction being added, and also to the opening sentence where those corrections were made so that we'd have the right language there. I am concerned though about the phrase no longer needed for municipal purposes.
Good question. And let me expound on that. So to a layperson, you may think, hey, we're so intertwined that this is somehow municipal use. But you got to think about that term is not defined by the statute you're referencing when I say that term, municipal use. So municipal means that the city, the governing body, or the administration is using it because it goes to the plain definition. Remember, we don't house any staff there. We don't house any equipment there. We don't use it for parks and recs. When I say we, the city, we don't use it for any of those reasons. And the games that are played there, Port City Classic and the Gulf Coast Challenge, those are only contributed to by the city through your performance contract. You don't sign the contract with the schools. You don't sign the contract with the promoter. That's not handled by the city. So it is not a municipal sponsored event. You're more so you're contributing. Remember, you're contributing to the promoters directly, not to the schools. We don't own the game. Think of it this way. We don't own the Senior Bowl. I mean, the draft starts here, but the city doesn't own the Senior Bowl. They can go out to South if they wanted to. The same with this game. We choose not to because it's important to the community that our games stay here at LAD. But they could choose to go out to South and we couldn't stop them.
Yeah.
That's not the case. We don't own GMAC. We don't own any of the other games as the city. So those are not our games, not our contract. Of course, we take part as a partner, but that's through a performance contract, and that's year to year. And that's not considered municipal use. And you don't have any, you don't have park league or anything going on at the stadium.
Yeah. Was the wording municipal use or municipal benefit? Municipal use.
That's right.
Okay, so
Which
even
is different from municipal benefit.
I understand that. Even with the municipal use, the only use that we're talking about is not, I mean, there are other uses other than football out there. And there are other events out there that are benefits to the city themselves outside of football. So
Correct.
it's still going for a municipal benefit and
Correct.
a municipal use. Now, there's case law that I sent to you yesterday that I wanted you to look at in reference to this. And I don't have an answer on that. And it came back where this was challenged and the individual providing the case laws actually won. So, I mean, we need a clear line on whether or not we're in the right place here.
So I didn't receive any case law.
I'll send it to you
that I
again in
have.
just.
But I'll say this, what we're dealing with here, and we looked at this, it's not like we went into this blind. You think about it, what goes on at LAD that you all regularly do? You don't go to meetings there or anything. So you have the municipal benefit, which is totally different from municipal use. And even if it were the case, all right, there's an easy way to deal with that issue, but it's not the case. It's not the case. You're dealing with a building that is aging and we're selling it to another governmental entity. And that's another key issue here, giving it to another governmental entity. So
My only problem is, Ricardo, is that when this goes through or when we get to the point where it's clear that we don't have the opportunity for someone to jump up and bite us in the leg, some enabled source that has a benefit or crush or is dependent on some action that's surrounding that's in the community or the city that says, hey, this is still a municipal use and jump up and bite us in the leg. I think that paragraph that you wrote about this said, can't remember which line, maybe 3 or 4 that said sell to the Mobile County Public School System for the continued municipal use. Do we need to change that sentence and maybe take out municipal and say community use or something like that to prevent an inadvertent claim in the future?
So we'll take that look at the document. I'm not aware of that statement, but we'll look at the document as need be. I can tell you now, let me go back and make sure, as you all look at the document I sent you all last night, the only thing that's not in there that Mr. Carroll mentioned was that the proceeds of the game would go to the school board. You all can add that. We don't have a problem with that. And I'm sure the school board didn't have a problem with that either, because the city benefits tremendously from having the game and the hotels and the gas and the buy and the sales tax that comes into the city. That's our benefit.
It would be my understanding, though, that any rental from the stadium would directly go to them anyway. Is that not correct?
Sure.
Yes, that's why we didn't add it.
But I'm hearing rumblings from the board and the superintendent that they like to see that language. That's why I'm asking.
That's why we don't have a problem with it. It's implicit.
They own the stadium.
Yeah,
They rent it out.
it's belt and suspenders, and we don't mind that.
If we can look at that paragraph between now and 10:30,
Sure.
along with the ARB thing, and if we don't have a problem with adding it back, Corey, CJ?
Yeah, I'm going now to go ahead and add it on.
Okay.
Mr. Days?
I have a question for Mr. Woods. Mr. Woods, when you say that this agreement that you sent us incorporates changes from the school board, what you really mean is these changes were suggested or asked for by the school board's attorney.
Correct.
The school board itself has not acted.
They've not acted, no, except for through their lawyer to give us those changes. You're right. They have not voted or moved. That's why we can make these changes and send them back.
Can you tell me that there are at least 3 members of the school board who are in favor of what you've sent us?
That I couldn't tell you, just like I couldn't tell you that there are 5 members in favor here.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I'll make a quick comment that I see it in a similar way. Heard nothing. Certainly heard a lot of speculation and, wants, wishes, desires from certain members and other members and the superintendent and everybody else. We've heard no official anything from the school board. We've made some of our concerns known or agreed to an agreement. And if they want a different agreement, then they need to get it on their agenda and they need to pass something that we can consider and put those, negotiations to the test. Where do we stand? And so I won't be supporting this. If y'all add it to agenda, fine. I'm just not going to do anything until I hear from the school board.
Question.
I mean,
Let me be
not some of
clear.
the members of the school board, the official action of the school board, taking an item up, putting it on their agenda, having their discussion, and they pass something, then that now opens the door up for us to then either accept or modify or whatever.
Ms. Gregory and then Mr. Carroll.
To just continue on, I guess, with what Ben was asking, are we trying to get all of our negotiating done on our side with the attorney prior to the superintendent putting something on the school board's agenda? Do we have any idea when the school board might actually get something to vote on?
No, we don't know, but we are trying to get all of our things done. And the reason why is because time is of the essence. As we explained before, we have to get the field repair, which is part of this deal. And none of that happens until we move forward.
Yeah, I
So-
mean, I understand that we have certainly been looking at it and we have made some changes to the intergovernmental agreement. And this new item would be even more changes to the intergovernmental agreement. So that's what we are looking at, the intergovernmental agreement itself, not the sale agreement, but the intergovernmental agreement that is incorporated into the sale agreement. Is that right?
That's right. That's right. You're already gone forward with the sale. So the 3 items,
Yeah.
Ms. Gregory, there's the intergovernmental agreement, there's the sale, and then there is the repair to the field. And so those
Right.
are all tied together. And the reason that we're more pressed than the school board is because they don't necessarily have a dog in the fight when it comes to the game. We as the city stand to benefit, as Mr. Carroll mentioned. And so that's our push, is making sure that we get the field fixed. Their only concern, I think, would probably be the August high school games.
Mhm.
And that's a pressing point for them. So it's mutually beneficial to move forward, but what you all do is completely up to you all on the vote.
Hold on, Mr. Carroll. You done, Ms. Gregory?
Yeah, I mean, I think the concern of this council is that we hear from individual school board members. I too have spoken with individual member, but it means nothing until they vote. So we can negotiate all day long for the next couple of weeks and put things into agreements, but yet the school board members themselves have not voted. So we don't really know where we are except with the superintendent and his attorney. So we're just trying to understand the process and where we are and how we make this happen.
And I would imagine that just like we've had discussions internally
Mhm.
and we don't put anything into the agreement
That
and
you have not.
that we've not needed to discuss with the council, the administration, the same thing is probably happening there. We put together a base level agreement. We send it out. We make the changes. You ask for changes.
Mhm.
And look, with a scale, with a deal of this scale, this is expected to happen. So the document you see before you is different than the original agreement, which is why we're bringing it back to you.
Has the superintendent seen the language that we are sending, the language that we are changing, especially that 30,000 seating? Has he seen that?
I don't know whether he's seen it or not, but we have actually sent that document. We sent that document over on
Mhm.
Friday. And so there's been discussions about it,
Right.
and they're open to looking at it. And we know based on the changes that they've asked for,
Mhm.
that's what came back to us. I don't think anybody would have made those changes on the school board side without some authorization.
But
We've had a good working relationship with them thus far, and that's typically how it works.
Did the 30,000 seating go to the school board, to the superintendent, and they've seen that?
Yes, it
But that was
has.
not incorporated into what we've got, or was it?
It was.
It
Both-
was.
And that's a yes to
Both of
both.
them.
Yes
All,
to
all of that
Yes,
was
ma'am.
incorporated into this.
Exactly.
Okay.
Mr. Carroll to
Yeah.
Mr. Day.
Just a note here, for those that have not been privileged to deal and communicate with the school system and their board and their process. Nothing goes to the school board itself proper for a vote until it has been vetted solely by the superintendent, his lawyer, and staff. They don't see it unless we send it to them or ask a question. So when you say the school board hadn't had a chance to vote, that's because the superintendent over there hasn't given it to them to vote on. It's a totally different process than what happens here in municipal government. So they may not see it until the superintendent's gone back and forth between the administration, us, and the council until the very last minute. So to ask for a vote from them to see something, that won't happen till, I guess, we've gone on and done what we have to do, period. Because that's just how they work.
That's been our experience. That's correct. And look, it's happened with every single deal that we've had with them. It's just been it's their way. It's different from our way. And Mr. Carroll's right. It's probably not going to be anything until we make a move, and time is of the essence for us.
Mr. Davis and Mr. Penn.
I, as I'm sure everybody else in this room, is frustrated by this shell game we're playing. Here's the difference between us and the school board. The Mobile City Council passed a sale agreement and an intergovernmental agreement and sent it over there. And we have not received, it's in their court. I'm looking at Mr. Woods, but I'm not blaming you.
I know.
I got to look at someone. So the ball is in their court. They have received something that was passed by the Mobile, two things that were passed by the Mobile City Council. And they have an obligation to either accept that or reject it. But instead, we keep getting these emissaries. We get the superintendent, we get the lawyer, we get various individual school board members coming back. You can't, and we've got various people in this room negotiating with us. You cannot reach an agreement with 20 people handling the negotiations. There needs to be a clear process. The Mobile City Council acted and sent something to the school board. It's time for the school board to act. They need to put 3 votes behind something and send it back to us. I'm with Mr. Reynolds on this.
So I will say this in fairness, understand that we get the benefit of being able to operate and negotiate through the administration and through the council. We don't have to necessarily deal on the administration side, deal with all the open meetings issues. So you all can talk to us about those issues. They don't necessarily have 2 branches. So if they were getting the document and having discussions about it and then having to vote, that might put them in a different situation. That may be why they do it that way. And I'll tell you this, they have given us their changes and said, this is what we want. And you gotta remember, this happened we've been talking about this a while, but it happened quickly. I mean, we put this together quickly.
But you haven't gotten their changes. You've gotten the superintendent's changes.
Right.
You
I
won't.
think
Hold on, Ms. Carroll.
I would say this, in communicating with their counsel, typically what happened, what Ms. Carroll said is they work through the deal and then they get the finalized deal. And so the changes, they're not large. I mean, they're substantial enough to bring them back to you all, but we just wanted to be, we want to be as open with you all as possible. It's messy to involve everybody in the negotiations. I get it, because we typically try not to do that, but because the nature and the inquisitive nature of a number of our councilmen, we don't mind doing that on this deal because it's so big, it's so public, and it's a little messy. So we're putting this document back out there. You all put it before you. Look at the changes, do as you will, but I don't think we'll have an answer until we make these changes. And time is of the essence for us.
But there's no sense us agreeing to this agreement that has 30,000 seats in it and send it back to them and they won't swallow 30,000 seats.
Hold on, Mr. Reynolds.
Well, I would say this. I think that's a fair statement, but they have 9 million reasons to say yes to what you're asking for.
Mr. Penn.
Thank you, Mr. President. One of the things that we have to understand is what Mr. Wood stated. If we are giving money towards this stadium, towards the school system, they have 9 million reasons to support whatever we present. We haven't received anything back before this past week. Now we have received something back. And I believe that if we have received something back from them, we received the documentation. This is something back. This is what we've been waiting for. They got information that been received back, is put in the documentation. We added more information that we would like to see. Now let's move forward so we're holding up time. We want to get this done. We have HBCU games coming. We need to get this field completed. And we already see that their way of doing things in the past, if we don't pass, it's just wasting time. So now we have the opportunity where we receive that information. We have their number. So let's send it back so we can move forward. Before, we never received anything from them. We just received it. So at this point, why not move forward? We have the numbers. We have the statements. So in that case, let's move forward.
The question to ask is, where did the response come from?
Came from their attorney.
All right. When it came from their attorney, did their attorney communicate with the head of the school system and the superintendent?
Say again.
Did the attorney communicate directly with the superintendent for this response?
I'd imagine he did, because we as lawyers only act as agents. We're not the principal.
Right. So that was my next question. Their attorney acts in response to the owner's request, correct?
Same.
So
Yes.
correct. So that means that the superintendent, being the owner over there, would have made that request, correct?
This is correct.
So knowing their process and that their superintendent does not put anything on the agenda to their board before he's made a response and gotten a response from us, then we're in the right process. Is that not correct?
That's where we are. And I would make this suggestion: if there's unreadiness, add it to your agenda. Let's look at it again next week. But maybe we can give you some assurances in that time. So 1 week won't hurt us that badly, but time is still ticking, and let us find out some more answers for you if you want to wait. I think we're meeting on Monday next week.
Yes.
So yeah, we'll be able.
Tuesday.
No, Tuesday? It's following week. Okay. Following week. Well, still Tuesday. Gives us a week to answer some of your questions. You all want to submit those to us, and so be it.
Would this constitute a first read?
Yes.
It
If it's on
could.
the agenda
If it's
today,
added.
it's first
It
read,
could.
yeah.
So by council rule, it lays over 1 week anyway.
I mean,
Mr. President, one final comment to drive this home. how things can change. I'm here in possession of several red line versions from the attorney from the school board to the city of Mobile in these previous discussions, prior to our passage of the original intergovernmental agreement and the original purchase and sale agreement. There were red line versions that were negotiated with the parties. What we did as a city council was we didn't pass any of those red line changes that apparently there was agreement among some parties on. Well, who's to say that can't happen at the school board? Where there's apparent agreement on some red line changes and then they pass something totally different. That's what we did. I understand we operate a little different, but you can understand the apprehension on my part, at least I hope you can, that we've heard nothing. We've seen no official vote. We've seen nothing on the agenda. So why do we keep putting ourselves through this? We've passed something. If they want to pass something different, they need to get it on their agenda, pass it, send it back to us, and hopefully it's sufficient with all the various negotiating parties that are involved.
Mr. Woods, I can't remember if it's line 1 or 2 in a governmental agreement, but does it not say that if it does not pass by an entity that the sale is terminated and comes back?
Yeah, that's it.
It does say that?
Yes.
So if the school board doesn't pass it, then the sale is terminated and then we go back to zero?
Yes.
So all of his resolve is satisfied right there in that one line within the intergovernmental agreement.
This is true. That's why it's designed that way. Look, it's designed that way to protect the city, but also to protect the deal. And so, Mr. Reynolds is right. Those changes I was not here. I don't know why they didn't get implemented, but that's neither here nor there. I imagine it was because of some disturbances that were going on during your all's meeting. And so,
That's right.
those things happen. That's a matter of fact. I need to answer any more of your questions, but I also need to take you all in the executive session if there are no more. announcements.
One more thing. Those changes that Mr. Reynolds has from the June 20th Flo Kessler revisions are basically identical to the changes that are right here that she gave us at that meeting, except for
For the 30,000 seating.
30,000 seats.
Because we talked about a lot of
That's a
those
counter.
changes. Yeah,
That's
we
right.
did.
That's a counter. That 30,000 is a counter to what we receive. And so that's why it's coming back to you, because these substantially different. Right. So in the future, this is why we don't like to negotiate out in public. This is why we don't like to get everybody down in the weeds, because this is what happens. This is what happens. And just note this date.
All right, thank you.
Mr. President,
Are we adding this for first read?
Yes. Madam Clerk? Okay. yeah. Okay. Mr. Davis?
Mr. President, I had some comments I wanted to make with respect to the upcoming, with respect to the provision of police and fire services in the police jurisdiction. But in light of the time crunch we have, I think I'd like to hold those until the announcement session of our 10:30 meeting.
Okay. Yeah, it was some other things too I wanted to discuss also, but I know we had to go into executive session. Anything important with this council? Anything important with the administration? Okay.
all right, Mr. President, Madam Clerk, I'd like to move to take us to an executive session dealing with pending or certain litigation that's pressing in the matter. My name is Ricardo Woods. I'm the city attorney. I'm licensed to practice in the state of Alabama. I will certify that the reason for going into executive session is pressing and pending litigation that's almost certain or imminent. With that, I would ask for a roll call vote from Madam Clerk.
Need a motion and second.
Someone motion that we go into executive session.
Second.
Been properly motion second in discussion. Madam Clerk?
President Small,
Yes.
Vice President Gregory,
Yes.
Councilmember Penn,
Yes.
Councilmember Carroll,
Yes.
Councilmember Reynolds,
Yes.
Councilmember Daves.
Okay. We'll see y'all 10:30 down in Atrium.
Okay.